The 3-year-old king and his 10 wives final part. There was extreme joy outside the palace. The king just gifted his wives brand new Lamborghinis. Their excitement filled the air as they ran their hands over the sleek, polished exteriors, some even kneeling to glare at the cars. Adanma climbed inside hers and screamed, inhaling the luxurious scent of the leather seats. "This is unbelievable," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with delight. "Finally, I've gotten my car. I never imagined driving such a car in my lifetime," Idia added, pressing her hand against the steering as she test-ran her car, her beautiful fair skin glowing with pride. King Okajua watched them from the balcony, a proud smile on his face. Then he turned to Osas, his most trusted guard. "Summon my wives to the great hall. We need to talk." Minutes later, all the wives were seated in the palace hall. The atmosphere was filled with curiosity and expectation. The king sat on a simple chair in the middle, his expression serious but calm. Seeing that they were all seated, he began. "I called this meeting because I want peace in my palace. For years now I have yearned for a male child, but to no avail. I will be 45 tomorrow. Ever since Tuluwa left this palace and has since returned, there has been too much hatred, jealousy, and fighting among us. I have loved you all equally, and I want us to live in harmony. I repeat, I love you all equally. Please let's live in harmony." The wives murmured among themselves. Adanma folded her arms and leaned back in her chair, her face unreadable. King Okajua turned to her. "Adanma, you and Tuluwa have been at war for too long. It must stop." Adanma glanced at Tuluwa, who stared back at her with a bored expression. Then, Adanma stood up and stepped forward. "Before Tuluwa or anyone else speaks, I have an announcement to make." The room fell silent. Adanma lifted her chin, rubbed her belly proudly, and declared, "I am pregnant." A stunned silence followed. The king's eyes widened in disbelief. Tuluwa gasped, nearly falling off her chair. The other wives exchanged shocked glances. King Okajua finally found his voice. "What?" He leaned forward. "The last time I checked, we have not been intimate for many months now. And Adanma, you are past menopause. So how is this possible? Or is this some kind of joke?" Adanma remained calm. "The child is yours, my lord." Tuluwa stood up angrily. "I don't believe this nonsense." She turned to the king. "My king, do not fall for this trick. We all know she is too old to bear children." Adanma shot her a sharp, angry look. "And who are you to question the gods? If they choose to bless my womb, is it your business?" The other wives whispered among themselves, unsure what to believe. The king rubbed his temples, his mind racing. "Adanma, if what you are saying is true, then prove it. We will call the royal physician." Adanma smirked. "Very well, my king. Call him." The tension in the room was thick. Tuluwa clenched her fists. She didn't believe Adanma for 1 second. But if this was a lie, what was Adanma's endgame? "Guard!" The king called, and a servant rushed forward and prostrates before the king. "My lord," he cried, "send for the royal physician at once." The king commanded. The wives waited in silence, whispering among themselves. A storm was coming, and no one knew how it would end. The royal physician stepped out of the bedroom, shaking his head. He went to the king and said solemnly, "My king, I have completed the examination. I am sorry, but your wife is not pregnant. What she has is a fibroid." The physician shook his head and walked away. A collective gasp filled the room. The wives exchanged shocked glances, while Tuluwa folded her arms and raised a brow. Adanma walked in at that moment, tears streaming down her face. She had overheard everything. "No, no, this can't be true," she murmured, her voice trembling. "I felt it. I felt something growing inside me." The king walked toward her. He placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Adanma, I am sorry. This must be very painful for you." Adanma shook her head, still in disbelief. "I wanted to give you a son. I wanted to prove I was still valuable to you." Tuluwa stepped forward, her expression softer than before. "Adanma," she hesitated, then reached for her hand. "I am sorry for doubting you." She wrapped her hand around her shoulder. I spoke out of anger, and I should have been kinder. Adanma, still crying, stared at her, surprised. It was the first time Tuluwa had spoken to her without hostility. Tuluwa continued, her voice gentle. You have been a queen in this palace for many years. You do not need to prove your worth to anyone. Please, let's put our differences aside. I forgive you. Can you forgive me? Tears flowed from Adanma's eyes. She nodded slowly. Yes, I forgive you. The other wives, seeing the moment of peace, stepped forward one by one. Forgive us too, Adanma, Ofere said. We have all been part of this war in one way or another. Adanma looked at them, her heart overwhelmed. She had spent so many years fighting, so many years filled with jealousy and bitterness. Now, as she stood among them, she realized she was tired of it all. She let out a shaky breath. I forgive you all. A wave of relief passed through the room. The king, seeing the reconciliation, smiled. This is the peace I have prayed for. For the first time in a long time, the palace felt lighter. Suddenly, a guard ran to the king, panting heavily. My lord, a young, good-looking lad is here to see you. He refuses to reveal his identity but demands to see you immediately. The king frowned, deep in thought. A young lad? Who could he be? He backed the guard and waved his hand. Let him in. The palace doors swung open, and in walked past the guards a tall, striking young man. His facial resemblance to King Okajua was uncanny. The entire hall fell silent as all eyes turned to the stranger. The king studied him closely, his heartbeat quickening. Who are you? The king finally asked. The boy looked around at the gathered crowd before speaking. My name is Kingsley. He said nervously. My mother begged me that when I turn 15, I must come here to meet you, for you are my father. Gasps echoed across the palace. Aww. The king's wives exchanged shocked glances behind him. The king's face darkened in confusion. What? Who is your mother? He demanded. The young man's voice was shaky. Her name is Eva Otobo. The moment the name left Kingsley's lips, the king's expression changed. His chest heaved. He remembered, long ago, during a secret lonely trip to the Avian River, he had met a beautiful young girl. Their meeting had been brief but yet passionate. He liked her and slept with her, but she disappeared feeling embarrassed, and he had never thought of her again. Until now. King Okajua stepped forward slowly and reached out to touch Kingsley's face. His fingers trembled as they traced the young man's features. It was like looking into a mirror of his past self. His lips quivered. My son, he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. Kingsley cried hard. Father, my mother passed away 2 years ago. It's been very hard for me, he cried, his voice breaking. A heavy silence fell over the room. The king pulled Kingsley into a tight embrace. I am so sorry, my son, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The wives, who had been watching in stunned silence, suddenly broke into murmurs. They stepped forward one by one and embraced Kingsley. You are truly his son, Ophir said, shaking her head in amazement. Adanma wiped a tear from her eye and smiled. You are our son now, Kingsley. Taliwa stepped forward and gently touched Kingsley's shoulder. The gods have brought you home. They all carried Kingsley high up in the air. The king smiled and said to himself, The gods be praised. Just then the king's 4 daughters burst into the palace. Daddy! They shouted and rushed to hug him. Come, my babies. Let me introduce you to your brother, the king said happily. Thanks for watching. Follow my page massively and subscribe to my YouTube channel through the link in bio.
Please subscribe, like and share for more of this interesting African stories.